Bernd Lucke, as the Vice Chair of the Special Rulings Committee on Tax Rulings, how do you feel and what are your thoughts on the revelation of several politicians being incriminated by the Panama Papers?
Well, let me first point out that tax rulings is something very different from what has been revealed now by the Panama Papers, because tax rulings grant special tax benefits to specific enterprises, to specific companies, so that they are not being treated equal with all other companies. Whereas in the Panama Papers we have this huge scandal of people and companies and banks making use of tax havens that are in principle open to everybody. So there is no problem of unequal treatment there. There's just the problem that some companies make use of these tax havens and others do voluntarily or honestly not make use of that. Now, actually, I think what we have to bear in mind is that we know for years that lots and lots of tax havens are present in offshore location. And of course, we know that they have been made use of to a large extent. So what I criticize as the most is actually that the political will has never been there to act decisively against these tax havens and against these techniques of tax evasion and tax avoidance which we have there. So partially we now understand why we have this problem, because even high-ranking politicians seem to be involved in these type of tax avoidance strategies. And that's actually one big component of the scandal, that our own elite is part of a system of corruption.
And do you think following this scandal, the problem will be addressed more clearly within the EU?
I hope so. I hope that political pressure will build up because voters realize that there are lots of issues which politicians actually must deal with urgently, which have been neglected over years. So we know this now from the Luxembourg papers, we know it from Swiss leaks, we know it from Panama Papers, that there's lots of work for politicians to do. And so I hope that the political pressure will lead to honest politicians, and there are still many honest politicians around, to really put lots of efforts into combating these very difficult these techniques, which are really very difficult to understand and to follow through. But there are means how we can combat that, and we should make use of every political means which is at our hands to end this type of tax avoidance.
And do you think that this scandal is at all similar to American companies like Apple or Facebook not paying their taxes in Europe?
Well, as I said, these are different issues. Apple and Facebook and Google have not shown up in the Panama Papers. We know their techniques, which are quite different, often affiliated to certain European countries like Ireland, like the Netherlands, like Luxembourg, sometimes also Hungary, for instance. We know that some offshore locations like Channel Islands, for instance, or Gibraltar also play a role in transactions of these types, although not the connection with Apple and Facebook, as far as I know. But we have developed proposals, we as the European Parliament have developed proposals how we can act decisively against these type of tax avoidance strategies, and I hope that we will get support in the Council by the governments of Europe to pass laws which actually enable us to make big multinational enterprises also pay their fair share of taxes in Europe.